So we just saw Queen, by which I mean Bohemian Rhapsody, which is an excellent movie. Kind of. And I'm torn on this. And I am. And maybe if
Am I joining you?
my
I
wife
wasn't sure
wants
if
to
I was
step in.
joining you.
Okay, so maybe we'll start with what you thought of the movie.
I liked it. I liked the movie. That's
She liked it.
so bright.
Okay, I'm turning it down.
Thank
It's the light there too, so
True.
kind of makes us ghostly in our
I know.
appearance.
I like glow with whiteness.
That's right. I thought this, Bohemian Rhapsody is fan service, and I get what people are saying about it and how it is, but you got to keep in mind too that the surviving band members were involved with this. I remember too at the start, Roger and Brian's name being on there as executive producers. I didn't see John Deacon's, which makes me wonder if that's why he's barely in this.
That could be.
There are parts where you wouldn't know John Deacon was a member of Queen.
Right.
And one thing I've always liked about Queen is that I know all four band members' names. And I don't with a lot of bands that I like.
True.
I know all the band member names for Rammstein. I know you know all the band member names for Tool. For me, it's Maynard and Danny Carey, and the rest, okay.
I know all of them for Five Finger Death Punch.
Finger Death Punch, I know you know all of them too. I just know Ivan and Chris Cale. Because Chris Cale, you can't not recognize Chris Cale when you see him.
Zoltan, you can't.
Okay, Zoltan, okay, all right. Because I've been with her through osmosis, I kind of know the band members of Five Finger.
True.
Metallica, I know the members of Metallica as well. But yeah, for me, Queen is one of those bands where you kind of know everybody, and they all have their own personality, and you could hear it in the records. So I know when I was listening to one thing I thought was odd with this movie was towards the end, they say, okay, from now on, all those songs are just Queen. It's not about one person writing it. Well, after the movie's timeline, I got the Miracle, and I could tell which ones were Roger and which ones were John. And,
right.
Because they'd still tell you who wrote them.
Right.
They still told you this is a Brian May song. You listen to it, you go, yeah, this is a Brian May song, all right. And if it was really weird and bizarre, it was Roger.
So Beatles songs are like that too.
Taylor.
Where it'll have who wrote it.
Yeah.
But I think their point was that they weren't going to split up the money depending on who wrote it and who
That makes sense.
How much input and
if you're going into this movie looking for a bunch of really in-depth information on any band member, including Freddie, it's not really there. And so it kind of glosses over some stuff. I know. See, and it depends who you ask. I mean, I've been looking at online resources before we saw the movie, and even when we came out, I'm looking stuff up. And Freddie's sexuality is still a mystery to a lot of people. And there are people who will say he was straight up gay. There were people who say he was bi. And it's, I don't know.
Not that it's anybody's business and there needs to be websites devoted to what people think.
With the movie depicting it as just he's straight up gay.
But he said himself that he's bi.
Right, but the movie betrays it that he's not. Right, when he makes that switch, you don't see him attracted to a woman again for the rest of the movie.
Right. But it didn't really show him being attracted to other women other than her either.
It's true. I think he liked her jacket. I think the way they portrayed it in the movie was just he really liked her jacket. And he's like, yeah, all right. Sure. I'll go with you.
Mary, I think that adds to a little bit of simplicity of the movie.
Yes. Mary Austin is portrayed very, very well. And the most believable relationship in the movie is the one between Freddie Mercury and Mary. And I thought what was nice was that they made it how it really was. Because I was worried about that because I knew he stayed friends with her right up until he passed away.
Right.
And I thought, I really hope they don't make this major blow up and this big fight and then they hate each other. And then they love each other when they find out he's sick. No, that doesn't really happen. No. He's heartbroken that it didn't work out, but he's being honest about who he is.
Right.
So I thought that was a nice touch. And you could see that people who knew Freddie had something to do with the movie. But I understand there are people that don't like how the whole idea of being gay was portrayed. One line that I saw a review... it took issue with was his wife saying your life will be very difficult, saying, oh, just because he's gay. And I thought, you're not paying
It's
attention.
not.
That's in the 70s. And if you came out in the 70s, your career would be over. There's a reason that even Liberace didn't come out of the closet
Elton
when it was
John.
clear.
Yeah.
And Elton John too. It's clear these guys are gay. They couldn't come out because they
Right.
knew it was career suicide. So that's how I took it, Mary,
Yes.
saying that. Not your life's going to be difficult because you're gay, but because society won't accept you for being gay.
Right.
So when he's in these dingy clubs too, well, that's where it was. You couldn't be out anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because I know when in the 80s, my generation wasn't exactly very forgiving of it either, and there were a lot of stigmas attached to being gay.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just tell people. So I'm not entirely surprised that they were portrayed that way in the movie, because I'm sure that's how it was for Freddie at times.
Yeah.
And then he can have the parties and all the excess and do whatever he wants after, because he's already famous. But even still, at certain parts of the U.S., even now, I would think you'd have a difficult time
Absolutely.
if you come out. And I can only imagine going from city to city for Freddie. He would have to alter his behavior, and that's why it's mentioned in some online stuff. I found that he would pose in public without his partner. His partner Jim, that they got together in 1985. He's portrayed in the movie. He would actually just kind of shunt him off, like, okay, Jim, you need to go off that way because I'm going to do an interview or a performance, and you need to be off screen. And that might have been to protect Jim as well.
I was just gonna say the same thing, that could be also partly to protect him.
Freddie Mercury's portrayed in this movie as being kind of naive, and it wouldn't really surprise me if there were parts of this journey where he was. They skip ahead a lot.
Well, they have to. It's a movie. There's only so much time.
I know. I'd be interested to see like a mini series on the life of Freddie Mercury, where they don't skip ahead. And then the other thing, the only other, and I understand why they did this because it's fan service. They skipped over a lot of really good songs, and they skipped over some pretty darn good albums just to get to those big hits, the big hooks. And I thought that when they showed the Another One Bites the Dust bit, I thought they were going to get more into that album, because that's when they really started to change. And then after that came The Works, which had Radio Gaga on it, which is a great song. That was actually the song that when I was, I think, 10 when that came out, and that song just captivated me. I hadn't heard anything else. I'd heard We Will Rock You, but it didn't register to me who sang it. I just knew it was something you played in the bleachers.
Right.
If you were on bleachers,
Yes.
We Will Rock You has to happen.
Yeah.
And they show that and how that works. And yeah, I think it's kind of a fun movie. I don't know. How much did you enjoy it?
I liked it. I thought it was a really good movie.
Yeah.
I liked it. But I really wanted to go see this in the theater. So I do really like Queen. I've always liked Queen. I listened to Queen when I was little. I can remember when Freddie Mercury died, even though I was quite young. I was like 10 when he died.
I had just graduated high school when he died. And what's interesting to me is that I had bought the album Innuendo when that came out in 1990. And I was the only person that I knew that had it. A lot of people would hear that I liked Queen and they're like, really? You like Queen? They were not a big name in the late 80s and early, right up until he passed away. And then what I got mad about was after Freddie died, there was this whole thing that happened. And all of a sudden everybody loved Queen.
So
I had people, the thing that made me angriest was a girl that I had known for a while. I had played Queen for her before, and she's just, that's crap. And then she comes up to me and goes, Shannon, I know you like Queen, right? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, their new song is awesome. And I'm like, Freddie's dead. So I don't, what new song? And she's like, Bohemian Rhapsody. And I'm like, holy crap. I almost strangled her. I really wanted to strangle her in that moment. Because I was like, seriously? And she's like, oh, it's this great new song. And I'm like, it's not new. It's from over a decade and a half ago. It's not new.
So I grew up in a very tiny town, very small farm town. I had 13 kids in my class. And And my class was kind of different. We listened to different music. We didn't like New Kids on the Block like the other grades.
Yeah, see, other kids were listening to New Kids. I was listening to Queen.
In my class, nobody liked them. There were actually, I had friends that liked Queen before Freddie died. So, people in my class knew what Bohemian Rhapsody was and knew Queen. See? And then when Freddie died, I remember it coming back on the radio, and it was on all the time, and then everybody knew who Queen was.
Yeah.
And to me, it was weird because I did grow up.
It was aggravating to me because in senior high, I was listening to Queen, Led Zeppelin, Tesla. I still listen to Def Leppard, even though nobody else was listening to them anymore. I was like, I liked them before you guys did, so I'll still listen to them after because I don't care what other people think. I'm trying to think of what else I was listening to too, but Queen was always in there because no matter what kind of music you want to listen to, Queen has it. They're across the full spectrum of music.
They cover a lot more genres.
You want to listen to something you can dance to? There's some Queen. You want to listen to a rock and roll anthem? Here's Queen. You want to listen to the opera? There's Queen too. There's a little bit of everything. There's some metal in there. There's some jazz in some of their stuff too. Every instrument is used, and nothing was off limits for them. They were really fantastic, and I think this movie really portrays that. I think anybody who's disappointed, and I think for the movie reviewers that didn't like it, they were probably looking for something grittier, something more real, and not fan service. But this movie is completely fan service. It's called Bohemian Rhapsody because it's fan service. That's kind of what happens. There, that's better.
Oh, hey, I don't glow quite as much.
Look at that. I had to turn this. See, if I turn it the other way, then I have to crank the light up for when I'm doing hockey videos. But apparently this way, natural light doesn't hate me. Yes, well. Just when I'm doing hockey videos.
See, when you're doing videos over there, the jerseys are between the door and you. Yeah. So you're in the shade of the jerseys.
That sucks.
It's like a jersey forest. You're in the middle of the jersey forest.
All right. But anyways, yeah, I would, if I had to grade this out of 10, I would probably give it an 8.5. I sang along way too much. I did. I sang along to songs, and I admit I was completely suckered in. This is a great movie for Queen fans. As soon as we got home, I ordered one of the box sets of Queen. I intend to order.
So we do have a lot of Queen albums.
We have a lot of Queen CDs, but I know they're not all in mint condition, so I've ordered them.
That is
true. And I'm gonna order all Queen CDs. We are going to have all of Queen, because we need all of Queen. That needs to happen. Freddie Mercury was, I think, I would put him and Robert Plant as the greatest singers I can think of. And I know you're going to say Maynard.
Yep,
I know you're going to have Maynard in there.
Pretty darn high up
Maynard's got that too. Yeah. But, Freddie was one of a kind. His range was fantastic.
His range is ridiculous.
It just absolutely fantastic. And, he was an amazing singer. And they were and are an amazing band. They tour now with Adam Lambert. Yep. And they sound perfect with Adam Lambert. So Lambert has some pretty amazing range too. And he doesn't get enough credit for that. I know when he was on, I think he started out on American Idol.
It was one of those shows.
Yeah, I think it was American Idol. And I think he was the runner-up. I don't even think he won. No idea. And he was the best singer. Yeah. I seem to remember we were quite upset when he was revealed as runner-up. We're like, what? No, he's the best one you've got. But I don't know. Yeah, Freddie Mercury, fantastic. Rami Malek, who played Freddie Mercury in this movie, absolutely spot on. Yes. He was Freddie Mercury. And all of the band members looked perfect.
They did.
They looked perfect.
That was kind of crazy. Yeah. While watching it, I'm like, they look just like that.
They mentioned Brian May's astrophysics. I'm like, good. Because Brian May's a member of Mensa, and the guy's kind of a genius. Yeah. He's brilliant. We've got one of his books. So I love Brian May.
And the actor that played him looked just like him.
He did. So did Roger Taylor.
Weird. Yes, true.
And John Deacon had the hair at the end, the big fro on top. He had the fro thing. When they went out on stage. I'm like, there you go, the John Deacon fro. So yeah, I love every member of the band. I love all their music, and some of their albums were kind of thin when it came to really good songs. But you know what? Every song had heart to it. And this is the kind of biopic that I think Freddie himself would have approved of. But I mean, they demonized Paul there, but I think that you had to have
Yeah.
a bad guy. You had to have a villain. So Paul was the villain. He's the one that they make it look like he's the one that broke up the marriage. He's the one that broke up the band. He's the one that broke up everything. I think realistically, Freddie had probably more to do with it than that. But yeah, it was a very very good movie.
It was good.
So there you go. If you haven't seen it, if you've been on the fence about it, I would recommend seeing it in the theater if you're a Queen fan,
I
because
wanted
that
to see it
music
in the theater just for the sound.
that music plays really well, and they basically played the whole Live Aid special
They played a lot of it. They did.
because it was a 20-minute set when they did it live, and I'm pretty sure they hit every song. I'm gonna have to go look it
I
up,
think so.
but I'm pretty sure that they hit every song that they played live. So they put at the end, they put the Live Aid special, and it's absolutely fantastic. There's obviously a lot of CGI and recreations when it comes to the crowd, because they're not going to fill Wembley just for a movie. But it was fantastic, and I remember that Live Aid special. I remember after Radio Gaga and I started delving into their music in the 80s. There's no internet or anything, so you have to kind of find it on your own. And I remember watching Live Aid as a kid, and I was a Queen fan from that moment on. And then, of course, Highlander came along, and that cinched it. Because Queen did the entire soundtrack to Highlander.
Right.
And it's amazing.
It's a weird
So,
movie.
It's an amazing movie.
It's a weird movie.
There can be only one.
It's a weird movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
See, and I barely remember Live Aid because I was 4, so.
I was not.
I was little.
I was 11 when it came out. So, or no, I was.
No, I was going to say, that math's not
No,
right.
I was 12. I was trying to remember. I thought it was earlier in the year, but yeah, no, it was later in the year. Yeah, no, I was 12. And I watched that on TV, and it was great because I was just really getting into music at that point. 83 and 84, I'd been introduced to music in 85. That concert was just bonkers. Everybody was there, including a very stoned Bob Dylan. Stoned or drunk or both. And I remember Ron Wood came out to play with him. He's from the Stones, and his guitar was out of tune, so he just wandered off. just walks off the stage while Bob Dylan's trying to remember Blowing in the Wind. And then Lionel Richie kind of had to cut it off midway through with fantastic. That was great because he was hosting it. Oh, it was so awkward. And thankfully, Queen knocked it out of the park. So you could forget about moments like that if my mother and I could have stopped laughing at Bob Dylan. We laughed pretty hard about Bob Dylan. As soon as my mother's like, he's high. Oh, wow. He can't remember the words to his own songs. Okay, so we got interrupted. We're back. So what would you give the movie out of a 10?
Probably a 9. I really liked it. I thought it was a very good movie. Yeah, it made me cry though. But, I'm a girl, so.
When did you cry?
At the end.
Oh, during the
Bits.
concert?
Yeah. Yeah, and when he told his bandmates that he had AIDS, that was sad.
Even though that's staged and it didn't happen that way?
I know, but if you...
Freddie didn't find out that he had HIV until 2 years after the movie ends, basically. The movie ends in 85 and he found out in 87.
So, for me, watching movies like this, part of them are like a biography of a person, but it is a movie, so they're also telling a story.
Yeah.
So it's not just a documentary. They're making a movie. They're telling a story. So not all of it is totally accurate. Not all of it's totally true. They add parts in so that it's easier for them to tell.
It's true.
And easier for them to tell in that time frame.
Right.
So I keep that in mind. I like movies like that, though, that have... It's like I also like a lot of historical fiction movies. They're not necessarily true, but there are true aspects to it. And I like those. So if you keep that in mind when watching it, it's a really good story. They did a good job telling the story. Yes, it's not all totally accurate, but that's what happens when you're making a movie like this and not just a documentary.
True.
So keep it in that in mind. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was really good. And they did do well not portraying Freddie Mercury in this super rosy light of he's wonderful and amazing and a musical genius. They did delve into some of the harder parts that
Yep.
aren't all sunshine and roses. And so I think they did a good job of that. And while watching it, I kept thinking, I bet this is some of the parts that the other band members really helped try and paint this picture of the kind of person that Freddie was. That he was good, but he was also troubled.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I think is really, really common for any kind of artist.
Absolutely.
The creative people, they generally have they have darkness inside their heads.
I think it's important if you're on the fence about this. If you're not a Queen fan, you won't enjoy this movie.
I don't know.
If you don't like the music, you won't like the movie. If you're not a fan of the music, because there's a lot of Queen songs in it.
There is, of course, but see, I don't know. There's other movies that are similar to this that I really like as well. Not necessarily being super fans of the person, though.
I would love to see a movie made like this about Rammstein, because their fights in the studio are epic. They don't even need to tell us about the fights they have. They basically come right out and say, without saying it, yeah, we really don't like each other a lot of the time. So, with a band like Queen, that clearly they're like brothers, they're very, very close to one another. I could just imagine how a Rammstein movie with them all fighting would turn out. I think it would be amazing. But yeah, if you're on the fence, I would recommend going to see it. I don't know if I would have seen it if not for everyone wanted to see it. I don't know if I would have seen it in the theater. I know I would have seen it on DVD, but yeah, I would recommend it. Absolutely.
I really wanted to see it in the theater.
I know you did.
So.
And because I took you to Halloween, I owed you one. So there you go. So yeah, let me know your thoughts if you saw it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.